Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Woo! It is just about 9:15. It is a Monday night. Double check it, double think. I'm telling you, COVID and all. That's hard to keep track of my days. I see a ton of you out there already dropping me some stars this evening, so thanks for that. So if you want to play the stars games at the bottom right next to where you can leave a comment. And tons of you are already shooting them out there to me. So Bobby started it off. And then let's see who came in. James right after him, and Amy, and Bruce, and who else we got? Carrie, Casey, James, Chrissy. So y'all are awesome. Daisy, I see you. Philip, I see you. So appreciate you as well. So every now and then I'll glance down. Jamie Ferguson loves the hat, so he should. It's his hat. This is FRS, Ferguson Roof Systems. So always very grateful and thankful for the Fergusons for sponsoring AT's Weather. All right, and I know what you guys want. Listen, I just spent the last hour pulling my hair out. And at my age, that's not a good idea because it doesn't grow back. I wish I was kidding. It's just a sad part of reality. You know, there's a lot of acceptance as you get older and ways to be content. And life has a way of forcing you to do that whether you want to or not on various items. But needless to say, being content with this forecast and the trickery of it is just something I'm going to have to accept. Oh, it is a mess, guys. You have no idea. All right, but anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle. Thanks for supporting me on my channel. And no matter which channel you're watching on, if it's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, Periscope, sharing it, liking this video as we speak. You can just hit the share button. Shoot me some stars. That's awesome as well. And for those of you folks that wanted the AT's Weather hoodies, this is a zip hoodie. So those are available, so you can pick one up. They are nice, warm, and super soft, so you'll like that. You can get them at aarontuttle.weather.com. That's my website, which should now be up and good. I had my web guy do a lot more work on it over the last 24 hours because you guys were hitting it so hard when I was putting out these blogs, it was taking it down, which is a good thing but bad thing. So he thinks he's got it all worked out. So fingers crossed that that's going to be okay. But you can get my hoodies there, or you can hit the store tab of my free weather app, AT's Weather to Go, on Apple and Google Play. All right, let me tell you, let's just jump on into the meat and potatoes of this thing, right? That's what I want to do. So let me load up this little map here for you, and then we're going to be on our way. I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible. There's just so much to talk about. I mean, stupid amounts to talk about. But we're going to do what we can do. All right, let me see. I'll start with the European probably. Sounds like a good start. Okay, so here's a look. As always, I start you with the upper levels of the atmosphere, right? So this is a look at the jet stream pattern, which shows 500 millibars. And this is our storm system. So I told you how an upper level low would form down here in south central Texas. Down the Rio Grande Valley, and it's going to shoot up to the north about like this track here, and like so. Now what happens is when this low heads off in this direction, you get snow that develops along the back end of it. So the snow should continue kind of along this path, right? In theory, that's usually the way it works out. Now what can happen is the snow can come a little bit further out to the west. And what also can happen is you can get too much warm air that pumps in on this closer areas of the low, which turns a lot of this. Once you get kind of past a certain area, there's a thin band that can get where it's just a little too warm. So in other words, it's very odd. You can get actually cold enough near the center of the low to get all snow here, but at around a couple thousand feet off the ground, you can have warm air here and make this sleet and freezing rain. And then you can have snow back out in this section here. So this is just an example of just the chaos that I've had to try to weed through over the last hour as the new model data comes in. But the low, like I said, by Thursday night, should be moving through the Red River Valley on into the eastern parts of Oklahoma by Friday morning. So what this means is, this is our second part of the storm system that will wrap up for New Year's Eve and then New Year's Day, producing a mess across Oklahoma. We're going to have it all. We're going to have rain, we're going to have freezing rain, we're going to have sleet, and we're going to have snow. What that means is ice. And model trends continue to produce more ice with time. That's not something we want to see, but it's something looks like we're going to have to deal with as some warm air aloft just kind of noses on in. So that is a quick look at the upper levels. That's the important part of the storm track, and we have been talking about this for a couple of days now and how the models are coming more in line with the agreement with this. So now they're all in line with the agreement. Now the devil's in the details on these little placements of warm air aloft, and we'll show you what that looks like. So first off, let's go. Let me show you this. Show you how the timeline on all this starts out. So we'll start you in for tonight. So as a reminder, if you live out here in northwest Oklahoma, from midnight, let's call it about the northwest, we'll call it the fifth of the state. So in other words, temperatures are warming up in this area, so there shouldn't be any problems of road conditions. Just up here in northwest Oklahoma, a little bit of light freezing drizzle, a little light freezing rain. This is all in the pink shading. And you see how that expands through daybreak. This is 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, moves into Kansas. Kind of stays in that area though. It does not move else anywhere in the body of Oklahoma. And then by really during the mid-morning hours, it ends. Temperatures warm up enough in this region, so it's just all rain. And we are going to get some scattered light showers here in Oklahoma City, by the way, by tomorrow morning. You see the light rain kind of moves through central Oklahoma overnight tonight into tomorrow. So it's just very light rain off and on. Now, we're going to go through time, and where things get a little heavier. So this will be 5 o'clock Tuesday evening. As we head into Tuesday night, there's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. There's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Heavy rainfall moving through central parts of Oklahoma. So I-44 corridor runs, of course, through Tulsa and Oklahoma City, down toward Lawton, and then we'll just drop it back to the southwest toward Childress. And so that boundary points north and west will be quite wet overnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So you can see what happens is that line expands south and east, but you see this blue stuff on the map? This is a model trying to produce some snow on the backside. It also has this purple shading in here and some red shading. What this means is we're going to have a mixture of freezing rain, sleet, and snow developing here in central Oklahoma during the daybreak hours on Wednesday. So if you do have some drive conditions, the bridges, overpasses might be a little slippery. Again, road temperatures are still pretty good, and we're only going to be hovering right around 32 degrees. Does not look like we're going to be in the 20s. So when that happens, even though you can get the frozen precipitation, road conditions typically are okay. Now you do get the snow north and west behind it. So this is on Wednesday. So Wednesday looks like it could be a sleeper event. Sleeper event means not a lot of attention has been given to it. Now I have, because I think it was going to be a good event, and now this particular short-term model is going overboard. I mean, it took what I had thinking to a whole nother level. So that's a sign of some things to come. So we'll see how this model plays out. But it's just gung-ho wet for Wednesday morning. Into Wednesday afternoon, it does start to taper off a little bit. We're 3 o'clock here. So there's Tulsa with a mixture of kind of a rain, sleet, and snow mix. As we head into the evening hours, it's still continuing. There's 6 o'clock. The model stops at this point in time. It's a short-term model, but then after this, it starts to dry out for Wednesday night. So in other words, after 6 p.m., this starts to wind down. But that does mean a lot of precipitation has fallen during the day on Wednesday. And if we look here, rainfall amounts, if you were just to be all liquid, in other words, nothing frozen, we're looking at 1.8 inches, almost 2 inches here in Oklahoma City, and about 2+ inches out in western Oklahoma. These little red areas are over 2 inches of rain. So some really good rains looks like are going to be coming out of this for the Tuesday night into Wednesday time period. Now, what else is going to be coming out of this? And let me show you where did I put that? No, it wasn't that one. Was it this one? No, it wasn't that one. Don't spoil it, Aaron. You're giving them all the secrets. There it is. Tuesday, lunchtime. These winds right here will be returning out of the southeast, gusting up to close to 40 to 45, maybe even a gust of 50 miles per hour. So just to let you know, Tuesday is going to be very windy during the middle part of the day with winds from the south and east. So I just want to throw that at you because that's the other big story for Tuesday, whereas Wednesday's getting all the attention for the precipitation. All right, so back to that aspect of it with a short-term model. And we'll take a look at what it's done so far for snowfall in this window of time. So it has quite a bit of snow that has fallen now because of that heavy precipitation band that just did not let up. That stretches from Bartlesville through Stillwater, through Oklahoma City, to Elk City, and even down just about to Lawton, about an inch there. So this is how things can easily play out for our Wednesday into Wednesday evening before all things are said and done. So like I said, Wednesday could be a big day for us as far as a winter storm goes. Now, we take a look, and by the way, all these little values here in the pink, those are all up around, they're up around 7 to 8 inches of snow. Again, remember this model it's good, but this is the first of a trend. We'll see if it continues with other models. But at least they're catching on finally to the pattern, and so we'll get better with time as far as the end solution goes. Now, when we talk about the amount of freezing rain accumulation with this, the model doesn't accumulate much because it thinks that the window for any freezing precipitation is very short over a given area, and that even though it's freezing rain up into some parts of the atmosphere, that it won't accumulate the surface because it's going to be around 33 degrees. So it's splitting hairs on the ice accumulation for any that may happen on Wednesday. And that's possible, but it's also possible to go the other way. Anytime you have a forecast, we're talking about 1 degree difference, it's a nightmare because models are not that good. And yet I'm forced to give you a thumbs up or thumbs down, and it's frustrating. So it's just one of the things we have to keep in mind. We got plenty of time to massage this forecast and get more detailed on it with time, so I'm not too worried about it, but just kind of let you know right now, this is favoring more of that wet snow, falling at 32 to 33 degrees versus, more ice. Now, let's take a look. The other model has just come in that I was looking for, and we'll see what it does with that ice accumulation. Let's see if it's changed its tune here on the short term. All right. So again, it's got the light precipitation of ice up in northwest Oklahoma. Again, just enough for bridges and overpasses up in Kansas as well. On Wednesday morning, it's kind of the same idea. It's got a little patch of it here, just enough to kind of coat the bridges and overpasses briefly, and that's about it. So there's not much of a signal in this particular case, which may mean that it's going to be more of a snow signal. Like the other model. So let's take a look here. And it produces more of a snow signal. It doesn't go crazy like the other one did, but it does have a bullseye here in central Oklahoma, around 3 inches of snow. So that's the trend that's happened here for today into this evening in the new model data for our Wednesday. So we'll be able to fine tune that. Now look what happens if I take this model forward in time. That system kicks out of Texas and moves into central and northern Oklahoma. We're looking at a lot more snow with that secondary round as we head into Thursday and a Thursday night. It's going to be kind of a late Thursday period as far as the heavier precipitation is concerned. So in other words, if that's snow or freezing rain and sleet kind of a deal. With time, this is the Canadian model. So this is what I hate to see. Every run it gets worse. That's not the trend you want to see. You want a trend where it dries out, and it's having a really tough time. It's a full-fledged winter storm. It's saying that the physics are so close with the temperature profiles that any little nudge in one direction or another with that, plus or minus 32 degree point is going to lead to a mixture of freezing rain, sleet, and snow. It could be occurring different times of the day. A few hours it's snow, then a few hours it's sleet. Maybe it goes from sleet to snow. Maybe you have sleet and snow. It's that type of a mixed bag of just blah. So sometimes I spend way too much time trying to forecast, okay, from 1 to 3 it's going to be this, and from 3 to 5, and then over this area it's going to be this, and over that area, that can drive me crazy. So you have to kind of get more of a generic, broad brush approach, because I don't have all day to stare at this stuff and go city by city, county by county, and in the end, the models won't be that accurate anyway. So what we do is tell you, the model right now, the trend is, ice storm for Oklahoma. This is the Canadian model that we're looking at right now. Anywhere from a 3/4 to a half to even an inch of ice here for central and southern Oklahoma, stretching down into the hill country of Texas, and of course later in the forecast period up toward Kansas and Missouri. So we'll have to deal with that in addition to the snowfall totals that will come out of this. And the final snowfall totals, just 84-hour period, which takes you through Friday morning. There'll still be some snow during the day on Friday, so this won't be the end of it. But it's got some spots up here around 6 inches of snow, 8 inches even just west of Oklahoma City. Otherwise, lots of pockets of 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It just depends on where you live. So that is a pretty big winter storm. Now, the other outline question is, how far east does it go? Because yesterday, the models had kind of favored this track of the heavy stuff. Well, now, if you've noticed, they've backed off and now they're moving it more in this corridor. So the little change in track of that 500 millibar low makes all the difference in the world. We're going to shift the heaviest core of the precipitation. So all is not lost for hope here in eastern Oklahoma. It's just right now the trend is you guys will get less, whereas yesterday the trend looked better for you, seeing more snow. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, the European models just typically does a pretty good job. Its earlier run for this morning had gone overboard, producing a ton of snowfall for the whole period out in western Oklahoma, and then for the Wednesday period, and then the Thursday night, Friday period. It had a quick gradient dropping off from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, about 1 inch to 2 inches, and then goes up once you get west of that I-44 corridor line. Now, when you look at its ensemble runs, remember I've been showing you these, almost all of them have snow. So it's not a question of snow with the European model. There's a couple there that were goose eggs. But the averaged amount is 2 to 3 inches here in Oklahoma City. So it's not going that crazy prediction like we saw with the short-term model, which factors in more of convective type situations. Now, if you do look at the mashed down look of the European model across the state, we're looking at 2 to 3 to 4 inches. This would be a safe call, safe play. The issue is the European's way west. And I think that might be too far west. I think it needs to shift east a little and include Tulsa better in central and south central Oklahoma, and not so much out here in far northwest Oklahoma. That's where I think the model will go. I think that's where the trend will take it, but we'll see. The probability, in other words, how much it thinks that it'll see at least 3 inches of snow, has a 60% chance and how the model data looks. In other words, the model's confident, 60% confidence level that over 3 inches of snow will fall in that heavier band, no matter where it sets up out there across the state. If you look over 1 inch of snow at least, it's at 76% here in central Oklahoma. So extremely confident we're going to get some snow out of this. Those are the wind speeds I mentioned earlier. We'll see if this updated. Let's see the latest. So I look at the ensemble models we're going to do here real quick from all of them. We're just going to throw them all together and see how they all average out. We're looking at over 1 inch of QPF or precipitation here, and this is Oklahoma City region. Now, this is the short-term high-resolution SREF model. Doesn't have much on snow, believe it or not. There are a couple of the runs that are up around 4 to 6 inches of snow, but most of them are down here in the noise of about 1 inch of snow, up to 2 inches of snow by the time you wrap up the event. Let's see, that was on the 1st. So Friday actually doesn't go out far enough. That's why it cuts off Friday morning. So actually, as the event starts to ramp up for that secondary, it doesn't have anything in here. This is what it has really much through the Wednesday time frame. So that's the look at that. So we'll skip that one for right now. We'll take a look at these others. So this is Oklahoma City. Total ice accumulations are all over the place, but some of these are up around 1/2 inch to 6/10. That's not a good trend, and this is a new trend. So we might be dealing with a pretty good amount of ice here in Oklahoma City. Unfortunately, when you look at snow amounts, it averages about 1 inch of snow or a little bit in some of these grouping clusters here into this area, but then there's several members up here that go into the 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the models are just now latching onto this pattern. So each day they're going to get a little different output. Here's the American model. It's got about 1.5 inches on snowfall here In Oklahoma City, it doesn't seem like a whole big deal. It's a control run, those up around 3 inches. And really, its ensembles are all over the place, from anywhere from a dusting to 5 inches. There's one for 10 inches there. So we'll see these settle down with time. On the timing, again, for tonight, tomorrow morning, look at northwest Oklahoma for a little bit of that light freezing rain, so be careful out there on the bridges and overpasses. On Wednesday, we're going to have a little thin line in between this rain and snow of a little mix that moves through, and that will be the mixture of sleet and freezing rain. Again, temperatures seem to be okay for roadways, regardless of how narrow that band is and how short-lived it may be. But the snow might be quite substantial. So keep that in mind for Wednesday. And then Thursday, it's going to be more likely a later Thursday event. So Thursday night and a Friday when really things kick up. And that would be a winter mix all over the place, but also with some decent snowfall. Let's see here. I don't care about that one. So let's take a look. Here's the extended outlook for Oklahoma City, for example. And you can extrapolate this pretty much over the state. Same kind of idea on the trends and really the temperatures. So we're looking at, let's see, so tonight, around 40. And we'll actually be a little warmer tomorrow. That's not terrible, 58 degrees. Remember those south winds gusting up to 40 plus? That'll help to warm things up. But then on Wednesday, that cold front comes in early morning. So this 35 may be too warm. We may end up being right around 32 officially Wednesday morning. And we may not even hit 40. Depends on how well the models latch on to that snowfall development. Thursday's not a good day either, 29 to 34. Friday, again, that could be a big day too, 32 to 35. Things wrap up and move out of here for Saturday, so we should start to warm up, but this number's in question. Depends on how much snow we get. Otherwise, that always retards the growth or the temperature climb because the snow has to melt. And then we do finally get into the 50s, and overnight lows do warm up over time. All right, so that, my friends, is a mouthful. I told you it was going to take a minute. I had to show you a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I understand that some of you guys like, just spit it out. Give me the 2-minute update. But did you see how much stuff there is to talk about? Try squeezing all that in 2 minutes. Oh. So when I did this on TV back in the day, they'd give us 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And we'd beg for more time, so sometimes they give us 4 minutes. And 4 minutes was an eternity in TV. And the reason why is because your attention span is that of a gnat. And if I talk for 4 minutes, most of you are like, oh. But on big stuff like this, you just need the time to really get into it. I mean, if you guys really want to get into it, you come to the right place. If you want just the 3-minute, puppet dance with a couple of graphics on TV, and you have no really understanding of anything other than the fact they say, oh, it might snow tomorrow. Well, you can do that too, and it's your prerogative. But I like to get into the meat and potatoes of this stuff, right? All right, so let me go look to a couple of your comments. On YouTube, Scarlett's checking in. Jim always checking in as well. Good to see you, my brother. Matt's checking in. Ice can mess up my ham radio antennas. Yes, it can. Let's see. Do you think Tulsa will get snow, ice, or sleet? Yes, all of the above. Vanessa, do you think in Mustang will worry about another run of power outages like we had over this year? I'm afraid. So here's the deal. When it comes to power outages, yeah, 1/2 inch of ice accumulation can definitely cause power outages. 3/4 of an inch for sure. 1 inch for sure. Now, that said, most of the damage was done in late October. In other words, a lot of the trees that were near the power lines, that caused the outages, those, of course, been taken care of already. So they're not there to cause that same problem. The power lines themselves now will be the issue. Just the weight of the ice on them, and then the wind picking up, because it will be windy with this system. So I do expect power outages this week, unfortunately. I was hoping for more of a snow event, but looking at tonight's data, I can't promise you that. It's looking more of a mixture with significant icing and sleet. Now, the sleet's not a bad deal for power outages. It's those little balls, those little clear balls that just bounce around. Now, on the roadways, it'll make it slick, but doesn't do anything to trees or power lines, anything like that. It's just the what you call the liquid rain that just freezes on contact, and that's called freezing rain. If you guys have any questions on Twitter, Periscope, you can drop them my way here real quick. I've got you loaded up now so I can see your comments. I'm going to load up my patrons and the main Facebook page again. So thanks again for all the stars. Corner of my eye, I've been seeing a ton of them flying through, so I appreciate that. It's hard for me to multitask. I need 3 eyeballs. I need one to go over there, one here, and one there. That'd look really strange, but I'd be able to see everything at once. On the patron page here, Karen, no, you're not late to the party. Neither are you, Jessica, so glad you ladies can make it. Paula's in the house. Larry, terrible time to jump in. Thunder game's almost over. I hear you. Didn't they get a beating? Patty, yesterday or whatever it was. Patty, good evening. Karen, my daughter wants to come from Arkansas Wednesday. Is that a dumb idea? Well, not necessarily. I think the roads, again, should be fairly decent. It's only when it comes down really heavy that they briefly do get covered over. So the roads will be in much better shape overall Wednesday versus, say, late Thursday and Friday. That's the difference maker. You're welcome, Larry. Jazz won by the skin of their teeth. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. So let's go to the main page. Now I can only scroll up so many spots. Let's see. But I tell you what, though, 2020 is not messing around with the weather around here. This has been insane. And we just started winter. Technically, this is a few days ago. So Nate, your Lawton's still going to get some winter precip. It just doesn't look to be a whole lot right now. You're kind of on the edge. But we'll see. There's still time. The data will keep coming in. So you think the trend will keep the snow west of Dallas? No, I still think, Christian, that the Dallas-Fort Worth is going to be under the gun for snow. I'll show you that map here in a second. So if you're from the Dallas area, we'll give you a closer look there. Ryan, I see your shout out from Claremore. Thanks for checking in. So you guys up there in northeastern Oklahoma, you're going to get a mixed bag of all this stuff, it looks like. Southeast Oklahoma right now is looking at rain, cold rain at that. But there's a fine line in that sand. And I think you might get some good stuff out of it. It's just some people won't be happy, and some people are going to be really unhappy if they get all that ice. Let's see, scroll down here. Collin County, looks like some action down there for sure, Alex. Let's see, worst day for DFW. So that'll be on Thursday as the system rolls through. You're welcome, Leanne. How's northeastern Oklahoma, Nevada, Kansas border? Yep, you guys will be seeing some action. Ice, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. Let's see. Dina's late to the party. LTTP. Meat and potatoes and no veggies. So tell you what, let me go. So a lot of you guys checking in from northeast Oklahoma. That's good. So I see you in Miami as well, Chad. So you're kind of in the same boat as Owasso checking in. You guys are all over, Jay. Where are my central Oklahoma people at? I got all my northeast ones. That's just probably because those guys up there on TV probably told you it's going to be all rain, nothing to worry about. I have no idea, actually. It's just what some of you guys are saying, all rain, so I can't verify that. I ain't got time for that. Let's take a look at the Dallas-Fort Worth area real quick, and we'll see how it looks for the snow. We're going to show you overall snowfall forecasts from other models. Just going to give you the big picture of how they wildly different from one extreme to the other, and makes it fun. So Dallas-Fort Worth, the Canadian model, has a dusting of snow in Dallas County and about an inch of snow in Tarrant County. All right, so that's that run. That's on the Kuchera blend. If I take the if I were to take the 10-to-1 ratio, it's still about the same. So once you just get west of Tarrant County, it shoots up pretty quick. So that has been the trend. The amounts, of course, are still going to be suspect, but at least that was the trend. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this out. This goes through Friday morning. All right, and now we're going to compare what runs we do have. And so the new NAM model that came out for Dallas, it has it bone dry. But in Tarrant County, it has 7 inches of snow. So you see what I'm talking about, that hard line in the sand? You get that line where from that track of that upper low, right? That's a really funny hill. Let's just do this, Aaron. That track of that upper low as it moves through, you're going to have on the east side of it warm air that comes in here. Well, then on the north side of it, you're going to have the cold side. So that's why there's a fine line in the sand, and just northwest of that line, it is crazy Armageddon. South and east of it is just cold and wet. Cold relative, but still just wet. So let me go back to the earlier afternoon runs, and we'll see how that differed between the different ones. So the Canadian model had about what it had this evening, so that really hasn't changed any. The NAM model actually had Dallas County in a 4-inch, 3-inch range, 5 inches there in Tarrant County. So that's an example of how one model can flip-flop in just 6 hours. The American GFS is way west of you. The high-res GFS also is way west of you. And the European, let's go back to 12, it also had it just west of you. So it's going to be interesting to see if the trend stays out west or if it comes back east. So the new trend is kind of back east in a halfway approach. But I still think Dallas is still going to get some, or at least, remember, Dallas-Fort Worth, I should say, the Metroplex area as a whole. Rockwall, for example, you're probably going to be on the rain side. So somebody's going to lose out. But we'll see. We're still early. And all that storm track has to do is shift 50 miles east or 60 miles east, and all of you are back in it. So that's kind of how that can change. Now, the ice accumulation, same idea. Let's take a look at that. There's a European out there west. A lot of sleet and freezing rain out of this model too. Canadian model for just west of Tarrant County. It does taper off in Tarrant County. Let's see, there's American model there, and there has the ice kind of west of you. Let's see. Let's go with a later trend. We'll do this, and we'll see the midday. So right now, if you're joining me late, we kind of did all the weather. We're just answering some questions, and one was about Dallas-Fort Worth, looking at the ice situation, ice and snow. Ice and sleet accumulations up to about 1/2 inch, so could be a little bit of an ice storm situation out here. This is the latest Canadian model, again, out here. It has it just heavy, just west of town. And then if we go finally to the 0Z roundup, has it just west of Tarrant County, but man, it's now bumped it up to about 1 inch of ice just west of Tarrant County, all the way north to the Red River. The NAM model, short-term version, has the same kind of look to it, but amounts are about half as much, and it's shifted west another county. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Tomorrow morning, the models will come in. We'll have a better handle on it. You have more atmospheric sounding balloons in the vicinity. Plus the upper level low will actually start to take shape. Remember, it's only forecast that it takes shape into an upper level low and then move into our direction. So models are better once that low starts to take shape and then becomes more of an entity that's easier to track. So once that happens, then it can do its job at forecasting lobes of energy that rotate around it, how wide and big it may be, how compact it may be, and then start to narrow down tracks, and then start to likely increase amounts in some areas and then decrease amounts in others. So there you go. Where are we at? We are at 30 minutes now into this guy, and I think we have talked about everything to death. There was one thing I looked at earlier. Let me see if I want to show it to you. I think it could be worth showing. Let me go back and look, because I hadn't seen this for about an hour and a half now, so my memory's a little slow on the recollection. Let's see. I think it's worth showing. It's just another way to visualize problems. All right. I use a lot of non-operational stuff for my forecasts, just so you know, just because it's there. It's new stuff. Back in my old days, when I forecast, I had very little to work with, and I made it happen. And now I get so much more to work with. So I do ingest a lot. All right, so we'll look at the Canadian ensemble panels. There's 10 of these here that run. What you're going to see on the screen is ice totals. over a 3-day window. And where you see some, the scale, oops, hold on a second, you can't see the scale. Let me see, can I bring it over? There's the scale. All right, now you can see the scale. All right, so what you're going to look for when you see the red, that's a 1/2 inch of ice, to purple, we're looking at 3/4 to 1 inch. So kind of focus your attention on those colors and then where they are in relation to where you live. This is, of course, Kansas and Oklahoma that we're focused on. All right, so there's one panel, another panel, another panel, another panel, another one, another one. So most of these, okay, didn't think that was that big of a deal through a 3-day period. On the 4th day period, it has it all, I think, east of here, so it's not going to accumulate much. Yeah. All right, so we'll go back to the short-term SREF model. It's like eastern and central Oklahoma for some ice accumulations, and one of its runs, good grief, it's got 1 inch of ice here in central and southern Oklahoma. As we go into the GFS, the American Run, its little ice accumulations are all over the place. This is why I was saying the models really sometimes are no help, just because there's just too many solutions and they all can't be true. So here's the European. What the take home is on this kind of a deal is you just look for trends, right? And you try to do a blended basket approach. You take the majority of the outcomes and you lean toward that. So here's the European model, which shows stupid ice amounts for Missouri and even into central Oklahoma, right through the heart of Oklahoma. So here's another panel there, Missouri and Oklahoma getting hit pretty hard. There's northern Arkansas. So there's west central Oklahoma. There's eastern Oklahoma getting hit hard. So this is the European model. Just each of these are different little runs as I go through. So you can see it's really favoring Oklahoma for an ice storm, and northern Arkansas and pretty good chunk of southern half of Missouri. Matter of fact, a lot of its members are that. It's a lot less in the variance than some of those other ones we looked at, which were all over the place. Most of these have a trend, and that's that central to eastern Oklahoma track up into Missouri for some significant ice. So anyway, that was just something new. I just thought I'd show you. But it's called bonus weather for those of you folks that like to stick around and learn a little bit. Let me think if there's anything else I want to show you. I'm going to flip through a couple of these. Did I cover everything I wanted to cover? Was there anything new? Just remember that here in northwest Oklahoma, the amounts are about 1/10 of an inch from about Woodward to the north and west overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So out in the Panhandle in southwest Kansas, just be careful on the roadways for a few hours, probably up to about 9 o'clock in the morning. And then just look at your car thermometer when you're heading out the door. Let's see, anything else that's come in that's new that I want to see? Let's see what this did. So this is the new GFS for giggles. It's Wednesday at 6 o'clock. It had just a little bit of a dusting of snow, but the GFS is typically horrid at snow amounts because of its lack of enough stepping layers for temperature profiles in the lower parts of the atmosphere. Oh, that's what I was going to show you earlier, and it completely slipped my mind. I got to show you this, but right after I look at that real quick. Let's see, that's only after 24 hours. Okay, so let me show you what I was going to show you. Yeah, this will be good. This will be a good little explainer. Okay, so we'll do this, and we're going to go up through 7 o'clock. What time am I on this? Hold on a second. Let me flip this over. Okay, so right about the time we get the sleet, snow, and rain here in Oklahoma City, we'll click 7 a.m. So we're going to go right in the middle of Oklahoma County. So this is where I'm going to pick the forecast sounding. And I'm going to bump this up. Let's make it bigger. It sure will. Let me go a little bit over this way, and I'm going to drag you back, get you in here. Okay, so looking at the forecasted sounding profile in the atmosphere. All right, so this is the model forecast. And if all you had to go on as a meteorologist to forecast for a point, This is all you'd need. You wouldn't need all those other pretty maps. You can just look at this. So we're going to look at this together. Now, let's see, can you see the time on this? Let me pull this down. Right there. Okay. Ooh, barely gets in the frame. Okay. So what you have here at 7 o'clock in the morning is a very moist profile. The temperature and the dew point, the green and red, are touching all the way from the mid-levels of the atmosphere at 20,000 feet down to the surface. These little red lines over here, omega is omega. In other words, lift. It's just squeeze out whatever it can in the form of precipitation. Now down here at the bottom, these lines get down to about 34 degrees of the surface. Now, as you found out in the last system, it can snow at 32, 33, or 34 degrees. And so this model thinks we're going to have a lot of snow with this. But here's the kicker. And this is why the models can never get this right. And this is what can lead to a forecast bust. This little line, this little light of mine. All right, so this blue line right here, this represents the freezing level in the atmosphere. Here's the deal. This profile needs to be to the left of this line for everything to be frozen, in other words, snow. If it comes to the east of the line, on this side of it, in other words, this little profile dips over like this, then that's called a warm nose. All right, so that melts everything back into liquid rain. And then once it gets back to the left of this line, it refreezes, and then it falls in the form of sleet and freezing rain. But what also happens is, if you've noticed, these lines are hugging this freezing line, and they're kind of wavering along it. That is all it takes to screw everything up, because that can change everything over to pure rain. It can change it over to snow. It can change it over to sleet. And it can even do freezing rain. The issue, though, is at the surface. Freezing rain won't be a problem if you can hang at 34, because the freezing rain it's typically rain that freezes on contact. Well, if we lived at a few hundred feet off the ground, we'd all be freezing on contact. But because of the ground surface temperature where we all live and breathe at 6, 10 feet, 20 feet off the ground is 34, well then technically it's not freezing rain at that point. It's just liquid rain. It doesn't harm anybody. So that's how quickly things can change in the profile in the atmosphere. All right, so the whole point of showing you this, because there was a point, was this was the short-term model that had buku amounts of snow. Now this was the 7 o'clock in the morning hour. I'm going to go forward to, let's see, I'm going to go to lunchtime. We'll go 40. Let's see what 40 does. 40 is late morning, and then we'll see what the profile does. The profile has us at 33 degrees of the surface, and it has it much further left of this blue line. See, it's over here now, except for this spot right here. So this spot right here can still screw things up. It's right at the blue line, but then it goes left of it again. So in this particular case, the sounding is likely going snow. And let's take a look and see what it says. So if you look to the bottom right here, and when you factor in all these conditions, it does say best guess precip type is snow. And then once we go through time, I'll add another few hours to this. So we'll go into Wednesday afternoon. Let's say 44 hours out. So that'll put us probably, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All right. The model still says it's mostly west of the blue line. A little touch right here, just barely. Otherwise, it still calls for snow. So that's how we're right on the cusp. And if this model is right, we've got a ton of snow coming that'll fall in this environment, but it can easily turn into pure rain. And wouldn't that be a kicker? Now, has that happened before? It happens all the time, especially in Oklahoma. When I was working at Channel 5, there was one big snow event we've been talking about for days, it seemed like, right? It was a done deal. Everybody, it was a big upper level low. It was coming in from California. All the models were excited about it. The Weather Service was excited about it. And what happened was, it gets in, and right over Oklahoma City, and up to about El Reno, actually no, to Yukon. I think it's just to Yukon. It was raining. It was so, don't worry. It's going to get closer. Temperatures are going to cool down on that profile, and it's going to turn over snow. And each hour we said it's going to turn over snow. That stupid freezing line stayed around, I think it was El Reno, between El Reno and Yukon, and never progressed eastward. So it was a total bust. El Reno ended up with like 10 inches of snow in Oklahoma City ended up probably like 2 inches of rain, something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something dumb and irritating and frustrating. But that's because of that profile sending that I just showed you. The models are not that good to know which side of the line you're going to be on at those little levels of the atmosphere, which changes everything. Now, as we go through time in long term, we're going to get better models for one, more data points for two, and then what I've been telling you guys for years now, that drones are going to be the new thing for weather information, both in severe weather dynamics, but also I believe in virtual or instantaneous soundings. In other words, we launch a balloon sounding, the Weather Service does, twice a day, morning and evening. And then we extrapolate the data across the entire country based off those two time periods. That is a horrific way to do things, but it's the cost-effective way to do things. And you know what that is, right? I mean, could you technically do 4 soundings a day? Sure you could. Could you do more than 4 soundings a day? Sure you could, Johnny Manziel. But that ain't going to happen. So it doesn't happen. But the drones are a cheaper way to do that and instantaneous and easier, where they could just pop them up to whatever their max level altitude is, and so at least you have some low level data that you can feed into the model data and get better outcome on these high resolution short term models. So that's the future I see in weather forecasting, which will make these type of situations far more easier, but that is also more in a very short term environment. In other words, you may only take that type of data and extrapolate about up to 24 hours out, and it still be worthwhile. It's more of a nowcasting and maybe a 12-hour window versus a 24. But that's kind of what I'm looking at, where we're going to go next in the weather field. So, which is exciting. Oh man, I gotta get out of here. I gotta. What am I doing? It's almost 10 o'clock. Listen, you guys have been great. We're going to do this again tomorrow night. I sometimes get a little long-winded and I talk about some other things and just show you some cool stuff. But that's part of why you're here. But the forecast I try to keep as short as I possibly can. And so tonight, we got through it all in about 25 minutes, I think it was. And there was just so much to talk about. So I want to show you everything. I got to cover the whole state and the surrounding states. So it's a lot to process and digest and all that. I see you, Guthrie, by the way. I hope you got my response to you there on Twitter. Jariah, I see your comment. Sarah, you are majorly late. Jason, I see you. And Team AT, I see you, Jody. You're so cute. So that's it for me. We'll do this again tomorrow around 9 o'clock or so when the new model data comes in. And at some point, let's see, so tomorrow's Tuesday. So I may do a live lunch update Tuesday. So tomorrow, if not, probably for sure on Wednesday, because that's going to be an interesting day in itself. And then we'll kind of go from there. So just be sure to keep your notifications on as we go forward. I see you, Tisha. You like that Johnny Manziel. All right, I'm out of here. Guys, be good. Sleep well tonight. We'll talk again tomorrow.